Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something a bit unusual.
Yeah.
We've got 8 biblical verses pulled completely at random.
Okay, interesting.
And our mission really is to see if there's some kind of hidden connection, some non-random theme running through them.
Focusing on.
Specifically, how people engage with divine authority. And what seems to be emerging, quite surprisingly, is this core tension.
Which is?
It boils down to a choice: forsaking or remembering.
That is interesting from random picks. And, before we even get to the human choice part, these verses actually lay out a pretty clear framework for divine authority itself.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, first off, there's this idea of chosen representatives, people specifically picked by God.
Like who?
Think King Solomon. First Chronicles tells us God chose him for the throne. Or Moses' sons set apart in the tribe of Levi.
Right.
These weren't just random leaders. They were seen as, channels for God's will. People even sought out a man of God for guidance, like in 1 Samuel. So challenging them.
It was like challenging God directly.
Pretty much, yeah. It was seen as challenging the divine order.
Okay. That sounds quite rigid, that hierarchy. Does that leave much space for, individual conscience? Or is it just about obeying who's appointed?
The texts we have here really emphasize obedience within that structure. And then there's this other fascinating concept, the sovereign hour.
The sovereign hour.
Yeah, John's gospel mentions Jesus teaching openly in the temple courts, but it says no one laid hands on him. Why? Because his hour was not yet come.
So like a divine schedule.
Exactly. It points to this divine control over time, over events, that kind of overrides human plans or even, human hostility.
That sovereign hour thing, it does make you think about free will, doesn't it? If everything's on a timetable, does that reduce our choices? Or how does that balance work?
Well, the idea seems to be that human actions happen within that larger divine timing. The ultimate outcome, though, is framed as divinely ordained.
Got it.
And this whole structure, it's reinforced by established practices, sacred time, sacred places.
Yeah, like rituals and locations.
Precisely. Luke mentions Jesus' parents going to Jerusalem every year for Passover. John puts Jesus' teaching in the temple. These specific acts and places, they anchor divine authority in something tangible, something you do.
Okay, so that gives us a pretty clear picture of the divine authority side.
Yeah.
The representatives, the timing, the structure.
Yeah.
Now, let's shift to the human side.
Yeah.
The heart. Because you said it comes down to forsaking or remembering.
Yes, absolutely. This is where your heart's condition, let's say, becomes the main thing. And the texts show 2 clear paths.
Right.
On one path, you have the hardened heart. Think about that lawyer in Luke. Jesus says something challenging, and instead of thinking about it, the lawyer gets indignant, offended.
Yeah.
That kind of resistance, that pushback against correction, that seems to be step 1 towards actively forsaking. The Hebrew word is azaf, basic meaning to abandon, to leave behind God's commands.
And does that lead anywhere good?
Well, Nehemiah suggests not. It talks about people hardening their necks, appointing their own leaders, forsaking God. The result, judgment and this painful remembrance of iniquity.
That resistance, that indignation, it sounds like a really crucial moment. Are there maybe more subtle signs before someone gets to outright forsaking?
That's a great question. Often it might start small, maybe dismissing advice or finding ways to justify what you want over what's guided. This can lead to what we might call the troubled heart.
Troubled heart.
Yeah, think of the widow talking to Elijah in 1 Kings. Her son dies, and she cries out basically, "Did you come here just to remind God of my sin?"
Wow.
Her past guilt, her avon, which is like moral wrongness, it bubbles up in these evil days, connecting her suffering right back to unresolved stuff.
So things you don't deal with can really come back to bite you.
Right.
But you said there are 2 paths. What's the alternative to the hardened or troubled heart?
The alternative is the perfect heart. But perfect here isn't about being flawless. It's about being wholehearted, oriented the right way.
How does that look?
It's about actively remembering thy Creator in the days of thy youth, as Ecclesiastes puts it. Remembering isn't just passively recalling, it's diligently seeking. The Hebrew is abrash. It means really pursuing, inquiring after God.
Seeking.
Yes. Look at David's charge to Solomon. It's super clear. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will cast you off forever.
Pretty direct.
It is. And this act of seeking, the text suggests, is met by God's cheesed, his loyal covenant love. And that leads to tzedakah, which is righteousness or being in a right relationship with God. It's about aligning your heart, really.
It is genuinely amazing that just pulling 8 verses out of a hat, essentially, could lead us to such a unified theme,
Yeah.
this core idea about the heart's direction determining everything in relation to the divine.
It really is striking. And, to get right back to you listening, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it actually mean for you today to remember your Creator or to diligently seek guidance in your own life, especially when these ancient texts seem to say that choice seeking versus forsaking is what determines whether you find real purpose or end up facing difficult consequences? Something to think about.